Welcome to episode 19 of Your Real, Your Ideal. We are on Thanksgiving weekend of 2020, and today we're going to talk about gratitude because
Yay.
we're kind of in our gratitude mode of the things we're thankful for on this holiday. And boy, 2020 has been a year. So, what do you think, Sandy?
Well, I think I'll have to add. So I think it was 2 episodes or three. Amy was just getting over COVID, and my entire household has gotten positive tests back for COVID. We've been sick for over 2 weeks, so I'm on the downhill of that. Yeah, 2020 has been quite a year, but now we can say we've all had it at varying degrees. Crazy year. And
Yeah.
yeah, left and right. And what a good time. I'm so excited about this conversation. And Thanksgiving is always, I feel like I get random texts from people I haven't heard from for a long time. It is a great time for being grateful, even though it was just our little household and a lot of stress going on with different things that go with COVID and frankly go with having my aging father-in-law living with us. Just a lot of stress. But in the same sense, gosh, my girlfriends from high school, we had a group text that was going into the night about how much, from jokes and memes to how much we appreciated each other to sharing what wine we were drinking.
Oh, how
Both
much
sides of
fun.
my extended family, we laugh about me and all my cousins, but I pretty much heard from all of them yesterday. And then the other thing is, my parents, yesterday was their 56th wedding anniversary.
Oh, I
And
love that.
Amy, they got married on Thanksgiving Day. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
No, but what a great time to do it with all the family gathered
That's
together.
what that's what the thought was, and it was just cake and coffee, and they and they had a video. And I found the old home video and I shared it with different family groups and put it on social media. And people really enjoyed seeing, people from, because it was 56 years ago. There were a lot of people that aren't around anymore.
Wow.
And then it was fun for them because when their anniversary does land on Thanksgiving, which what happens every 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Um, it makes it a little special too. So anyway,
Oh, how
grateful
much
for
fun.
them. Grateful for you, Amy, too. So
No,
thank
I'm
you for
grateful
these
for you too.
conversations.
This is fun. And we kind of had the same thing going on, lots of text because nobody was together. Even the six of us in my immediate family, there were only three of us at the table this year.
Wow.
And we're used to being with all the extended family, and we don't have large families, but all of Tom's side is usually together for Thanksgiving. And this year, um, I had one kid in quarantine
Okay.
in Omaha. She was in Omaha, and but she was in quarantine. And then I had one kid stayed in Chicago, and one kid came from Kansas City, and I had Trevor. But then my husband had to go to St. Louis because his dad's not doing well, so he took off on Wednesday. So it was like a really small, intimate Thanksgiving. And I will say I'm very thankful for the my kids that were here, and I'm thankful for my kids that weren't here too because they're taking care of themselves. And I'm thankful that my husband got to go help his mom take care of his dad. And um, I'm thankful for FaceTime because
Yes.
yesterday we were doing lots of FaceTiming and adding people to the calls.
Mhm.
So we had one long FaceTime with one of the grandmothers, and then all my kids were on the call and we were all together. And then she had to go. And so we're all on the call talking, and we're like, okay, let's call our other grandmother. And so we all called her. So I will tell you, FaceTime is and Zoom, those are like two of the things that I'm
And
really thankful for.
I'm very thankful for them. And I'm thankful I am with the text too. My
Yeah.
kids do these group texts and we had one that when I found my parents' video, I stumbled on a video because when I was going through it, I was going through other family videos. It was the funniest thing, Amy, but I don't even remember it. Zachary, my oldest, who's now 27, he must have been 7 or 8, and Ben must have been 4 or 5, and Ben's tooth was loose, and he wanted so badly to remove his tooth. And I clipped it down to a 1-minute video saying, what is going on here? And my ex-husband, their dad, and I were videotaping the whole thing, and he did remove the tooth, but the whole dialogue was hilarious. So I started a group text with the ex-husband and the 3 boys saying, what is going on here? And, we all laugh, and it's like, where did you get that video? And
Oh yeah.
just sharing a little bit of life. And yeah, we had a lot of fun times. I don't really, it could have been a sitcom. It's like, what parents videotape and say remove his tooth when the child
Right.
doesn't want him to? And it was funny.
Right,
But
right,
my mom said, because I had shared their wedding video, and so they knew it was the anniversary, she left her phone alone. And when she got done with her small meal, she said, I had 84 texts. Cause you know how you can have a group text that goes up to like 26. And
yeah.
she said, I have never seen so many pictures of people's food tables in my life, which she loved because that's what everybody was taking pictures of their food
Yeah,
and their
that's what we
tables.
do.
And
Our little, I have a little selfie of me and my 2 kids with all of our food.
right.
So
We were enjoying, she said it was really fun to see everybody's food. And
yeah,
one cousin who's younger than me did grandma's dressing recipe.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And everybody was going on and on about it, like that she would never let food go to waste. And those were breadcrumbs from the last 2 weeks, and how she made her sauce. And I mean, there's something about cooking and food that is to be grateful for, and shares a lot of memories of people and times past. I think Thanksgiving does that for us too. The whole theme around food
Right.
and togetherness, right?
Togetherness. Yeah. I saw somebody put a tweet out that said, I feel bad for all the cousins this year who aren't able to go for a walk with their cousins. And
Mm.
I'm like, oh, that's exactly what my kids have done every Thanksgiving is they go for a walk with their cousins,
Right.
and so I'm like, oh, but you know what? Everybody's healthy. We're here. We're all good. So
We're
just
here,
let
and it's 2020, and we're almost
yeah,
to the last month, Amy.
I know. And I'm hoping 2021 is I hope it's a really good year.
It's gonna be.
I hope so.
And I
All
think,
right.
okay, keep on going. I think
Yeah.
part of our point too is everybody, we keep laughing and saying 2020 was so bad, but was it? Was it that bad? Did we get more out of it? Did we become more grateful? Did it make us think and feel deeper and better? Is 2020 a bad thing, or has it been a good thing?
I think a little bit of both. I think I feel a real sense of privilege in saying that it's been good for me because it has made me pause and stop. But along with that privilege, I'm going to say I don't have to worry about feeding my family. Like we're okay. I'm not running late on rent or mortgage, so I'm not going to lose my home. You know what I mean? So um, I think for some of us, it has been very introspective, having this time to pause, get caught up, and appreciate the time with just the family and the ones you're with, and being more intentional about reaching out. But I do still think that there are some people who are really, who can't say that, who have lost a
Right.
loved one this year because of COVID, or you know what I mean? There's like, they're not yet at that point where they can say, yeah, it's been an okay year. Like it's hard for
Did you
some.
see all the stats too on the number of people that needed food from the food bank this Thanksgiving
Yeah.
season? It was
Yeah.
really high, lines long.
Right.
I think what does add to that is inaccessibility to grocery stores, or not, it's back to pickup. I think there's a lot of things that contribute to that this year, but I'm with you, Garrett and I, we went on a nice walk yesterday. It helped, back to the lungs and the COVID. There's nothing better than a nice fresh air walk, especially in Colorado. But we talked about how lucky we are, and how,
Right.
and having each other during, back
Right.
to being quarantined, we're not alone.
Right. I know I was reading an article about people in the nursing homes, and they've been locked down since March, most of them. And so and a lot of them are locked in their rooms. Like they're not even letting them wander around because they don't want them commingling. They don't, they just want to keep everybody safe. And they're talking their health is deteriorating because their lack of activity, their lack of interaction. And it's just, so yeah, I think 2020 has made us aware of some things that we can do better with our time, but there's also a lot of people really struggling, which is just heartbreaking. So anyway, on we go. But this little quote that you wrote down, this is not the year to get everything we want. This is the year to appreciate everything you have. And that's very, very true.
Isn't it funny? I just listened to a Sheryl Crow mini audio from Audible. It was very good, only an hour and a half. And now I'm remembering, her lyrics to her song are so good. And there's one song lyrics that's very similar to that quote, which is, it's not about having what you want, it's about wanting what you have. And I think about that a lot. That's back to quotes. We didn't bring that up, or that didn't get brought up in quotes, maybe in different ways last week when we talked about advice. But I remind myself of that all the time, is don't think about not what you don't have or what you think you want, but want what you have. Look at what you have and that's gratitude, being grateful for what you do have, not for what you don't have.
Right. And isn't that something we tell our kids all the time as they're growing up? Because I remember as a kid wanting stuff. Like I remember wanting. And I do remember there were times where I would get something I wanted and it would bring that little bit of joy for a little bit. And then I would move on to wanting something else.
Right. Right.
I don't know. I was a kid. I'm not like that anymore.
But that's part of it. And it's so easy to see what everybody else has.
Right.
Oh gosh, there's another quote. There's another quote that was, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but it was usually, basically what it was based on is, if you're looking at, it's not the things that you typically would look for and say, I want that. If you're basing happiness on something you want, it's usually, those aren't the things that make you happy. It's more the intangible things, the relationships, the feelings, because that ends up being stuff and it's short term.
Right.
Does that make sense? So kind of like if it's kind of like looking through a catalog, I want this, 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 and this. And if I have all these things, I'll be happy. But the things that usually bring the most happiness are the things you're not going to find in a wish book. They're not going to be, it's a moment, it's a feeling, it's a relationship. What were the things that we were sharing? Sure, they were food pictures, but it was more grandma's casserole, thinking about who was at that table, remembering what it was like the last time we were together. It was the feelings behind the pictures that were the true gratitude, and the people behind the message.
Right. And the people you're connecting with.
The people you're connecting with. Yeah.
Right. Ones that you are sending it to. That's what was so important yesterday.
So how do you have an attitude of gratitude when you're the one standing in line to get the Thanksgiving meal and you're worried about paying rent on December 1st? It's easy for us to say, we're like, oh, wow,
Right. Right. And that's a really good question. If I were in line for a turkey, it would probably be really hard to say, I am so thankful that somebody was able to give me a turkey, because what would really be on my mind is probably all the reasons that I couldn't buy the turkey myself and all the things that were weighing me down. So having that little piece of gratitude would probably be pretty challenging. And, that's like people with illnesses. You think about someone in the middle of cancer treatments, and they feel like junk.
Right.
And how I'm always really impressed when there's people like that who can identify things that they're grateful for, or point out things that are positive that are happening in their lives. But I don't know how they do it.
I always think back to, and this is more of a used around a circumstance when bad things are happening, like 9/11, or we're at war, scary, big things, right? But
Right.
do you remember the quote from Mr. Rogers on his mother? And she said, look for the good people. You will always find good people. Don't look at the scary things. Look for the good people because they're always there.
Yeah, I think it was look for the helpers.
Look for the
Look for
helpers. Thank
the
you.
yes, yes, which is good people too. But
Good
yeah, look
people.
for the helpers. Totally. That's a really good perspective to get out of your head and what's going on that's bad, because sometimes when it's in our head and the bad things, and we can start spinning out of control in our head, but start looking at the people who are helping you, helping others. Yeah, that's a good.
It's a gratitude thing because back to, I'll use the example when I got the phone call to say my test was positive. And I started picturing the guy on the other line. I'm thinking, boy, he's having a long day. I mean, our numbers are terrible here. It's really bad in our county right now. And I bet these people, the healthcare workers, back to the helpers, this guy is on the phone with everybody with a ton of questions, with a lot of concerns, are not feeling well. And when I started thinking about him as a helper and feeling gratitude toward him for taking the time and answering my questions, and he started thanking me. He's like, thank you for being careful. Really, oh my gosh, you've only been in contact with the people in your household the last 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I've had people take out we ended up going back and forth, being grateful for each other and having a great conversation. But it was something that, you can get aggravated, you can be scared. There's a lot of feelings that go with that. And finding gratitude, appreciating the helpers, appreciating the person on the other side for being a human that's just trying to do, whether it's the person handing out the turkey in the line, whether it's a person behind you that might have a worse story than yours,
Right,
there's gratitude everywhere.
right. I completely agree. Um and that you expressed it to him. I love that. Like, it just reminded me of you and your gratitude letters,
Mm-hmm.
and you sending those letters to people and telling people, what you're thinking of and how you're thankful for them. And I think that's such an important piece. Expressing gratitude is one thing, but also just thinking, having that thought process that's always going in your head
Mm-hmm.
of you're thankful for. So there's like kind of two pieces. One's the internal thoughts, and one's the communicating that to others of why you're grateful for them.
I have a really strong belief, Amy, in in the kind of actions that result in the highest level of happiness, because we can do a lot of things. So back to what do you do and why is gratitude important? There's a lot of things I'm really bad at, like taking things too personally, not wanting to get feedback. But there are a couple of things I'm really good at. And one of them is gratitude. I always have been. It's my knee jerk reaction. So if something really, really bad happens, my knee jerk reaction is I start to think about the positive. I find, and usually that's with people. If somebody treats me really bad, my innate reaction is to think about somebody in a similar circumstance that have treated me really well. And I will go out of my way to call them, write them, do some form of gratitude. But I will tell you, from a happiness factor standpoint, the
Uh-huh.
actions that have the biggest impact for me, that have caused me to have the most fulfilling and longevity in being very happy, have been gratitude and probably forgiveness. And so I think part of what we're talking about is finding the gratitude has and looking for the good and being appreciative, even when it's hard, will probably help you come out of it the best. I think so. I mean, that's been my history, at least, is if anything, it's something we can all do, but it probably helps the most in bad situations.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? I'm someone like you that just tries to find the positive in every situation. And sometimes it's not like right when you're in the throes of the problem and the chaos, but you can like see it in hindsight. You start to
Right.
see some of the growth, some of the learning, some of the whatever it is, there's always something you can be grateful for.
And it sure feels a lot better than being upset or being angry. For me,
Yeah.
even in conversations where Garrett and I are both upset, if we start talking about more in terms of gratitude and what's going right or what did we learn from it, we're not playing victim and villain. And it's always good to dissect things, but it's a positive way to move on too, and to appreciate. It's sometimes it's easier to criticize than to find the positive. It's just a natural thing. And so seeking out the positive, there's a lot of paying it forward with that, because when you do it towards somebody and they feel it, it's like, wow, I didn't realize that I made that kind of a difference. And you're more inclined to keep paying positive things forward or being reminded to show gratitude to other people.
Right. So I have to share a little story about Trevor.
Okay.
He's a senior this year. And so I was talking to him last week about his senior year, because it's a different senior year, and his junior year's been different too. And um, I don't know what's going to happen in the spring, like what's going to happen with graduation. And we were talking about it because I was cleaning out some cupboards in my kitchen, and I came across stuff that I am saving for possibly a graduation party. I was like,
Right.
oh, I don't need this stuff anymore. And then I'm like, oh, I'll save it for the party, maybe, hopefully. So I was talking to him about, hopefully we can have a graduation party. And so I was asking him, I'm like, how you feeling? Like, how you doing with this, your senior year? And he is so he's fine. Like, he's not
That's
upset
awesome.
about it. He's just like, yeah, he's like, it's okay. He's not excited and happy about it, but he's not upset and miserable about it. That you could go two ways. And
Right.
he's just even killed, and he's enjoying what he can do, and he seems to be doing good. So I was thinking about him, and I was thinking about his, like, we're kind of low drama here.
Yep.
And
Love that, Amy.
I know.
I'm,
We're
I'm
like,
very appreciative to everybody in my life who's low drama.
I know. I'm not like someone who's going to throw a big fit about, him not being able to go to a football game. I'm
Right.
like, it is what it is. And we just kind of move on. So I think that I'm just going to give myself a little bit of credit, because I think that's carried over into his perspective of stuff, because I think he hasn't had parents, and I'll give Tom credit too. It's not just me, but he hasn't had us role modeling this hysterical craziness and demanding that things happen because it's his senior year. He needs to have this happen. It's just like, okay, we're just going to roll with the punches, and we're going to do what we can. And we're going to be thankful that, he can still go to school. Like, schools are still open, and he's still be able to go to his friends. We're going to be thankful that we're all healthy, and there's so much stuff that we can still be thankful for, even though all this stuff isn't happening.
So, Amy, I think I'm listening to you. What you've done is you've also raised a son who knows from his parents and from his family that it's not all about him. And that's part of appreciation and gratitude too. If he was raised in a setting, and this is where there can be a downfall, is when a child, because you're young, you lack maturity, you think it's all about you, then all this stuff does turn into drama and it's all about you. But he knows it's not all about him. And that's part of being appreciative too, right? Is that there's other people in this world and it's not all about me. So kudos to you for
Well,
instilling that in him.
I think that's part of having multiple children too. I'm just going to say that, because I was just having a conversation with my 24-year-old today, Reagan, and she was talking about going to visit grandma's, and one of the cousins throwing a fit because they didn't get spiral macaroni and cheese. And Reagan said she remembers sitting there thinking, I don't care. I'll eat whatever you put on my plate. I was like, okay, that's growing up in our house, where you're just going to eat what you get.
Right.
And
Right.
the world does not revolve around you.
You know what? That's a great point, because I think about my kid's dad. He had 9 kids in his family, tons of grandkids, and it was very much instilled. My kids, there's 3, but very uh, we always instilled life isn't fair, where they'd be like, so and so got this and I got that. Oh well, tough, and you
Yeah.
get what you get. You don't throw a fit, and
Yeah.
it is all about family. And yeah, there is no prince or princesses in this crew. And here's my 24-year-old, our 24 was actually went to grade school together, but boy
Right.
and girl, and yeah,
Yeah.
different. Reagan didn't play football, Ben
No.
did, Ben didn't
Yeah.
play volleyball, but he went to Thanksgiving. And the funny thing about Ben is he is the typical pizza, pasta, nuggets. He's always been a real picky eater. He's doing better now, and he'll make his own food, but like very much, you don't mix things together, not casseroles, but you grill, you make wings. Anyway, he was at a family, small, but family Thanksgiving. And I knew he just doesn't like typical Thanksgiving food. A lot of it is gravy and all together. It's just not food he likes. So he called me on his way home. He's like, what do you think I should have for Thanksgiving? I'm like, you probably just left the biggest thing of food, but he'd never say a word about it. He's like, it's okay. I ate some, like I had some rolls, maybe some turkey. And he was sitting a drive-through, but it would never cross his mind to not say thank you. And just because he was kind of being a prima donna about not like, kind of like Reagan said, it's just like, I'll eat what they give me. And if I don't, I guess I'm going to have fries from McDonald's on my way home.
Right,
That's my
right, right.
choice.
You're right. And they'll be fine. They figured it out. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, Trevor, and being okay
Good
being a
Trevor. Good for
right
him.
now. He's a roll with the punches kind of guy. All right. So you sent me an article this morning or last night. I read it this morning, but it was really good. It was people who can't say they're thankful for these 7 things will have a very hard time in 2021.
It
And
was
so
an interesting article, wasn't it?
it was very interesting. And I've pulled it up and I've got the list of things. And number 1 is to be grateful that you're alive, which, this is very true. All right. Um,
And very true. And I think it's interesting back to COVID, because there is this, it's all good unless you're in the percentage of people that got it bad, right? So when people say, oh, bring it on, I'll take COVID. And I'm like, why would you say that with anything? It's like taking a relay gun to your head. So even though we know you can say percentages, you can say it's a minority, but nobody wants to be in that minority. So it kind of is top of mind of, oh my gosh, health, I don't want to be on a ventilator in an ER.
right. Yeah.
Being
So,
alive and appreciating that's a great thing.
yeah, the last sentence in this paragraph is about this. It says the gift of life is worth being very thankful for. So I just did that. All right. The second one is be grateful for pain and longing. Did you remember why we're supposed to be thankful for that?
Well, because you learn from it, right?
Yes.
The thing I remembered about that one, and of course I'm trying to find my article. I'm used to having 2 screens. Oh, well, I'm just going to go from memory. There was a line, it was in the 3rd paragraph. Do you have the article in front of you, Amy?
I do. The 3rd paragraph first, because good relationships are what makes us happiest and most fulfilled, and all good relationships depend on understanding. If you never experience pain and longing, you'd never be able to understand anyone else.
Okay, so there is this great Garrett appreciation quote that when I say it to people, they love it because they haven't thought about it that way. It comes up a lot when people are in the dating world. And so I have a new friend here in Durango, and she is recently divorced and she is now dating. And she gets so disappointed when she meets somebody and she thinks that it's going to work out and it doesn't work out. And I gave her this, and she's come back to me because I've given her this advice that Garrett told me. And Garrett always says, think of everybody, whether it's dating or work, everybody is part of your journey. And from that journey, if it doesn't work out, what did you learn from it? And it's going to help you define the best relationship, the best work partner, the best. And then when you find them, you're going to be even more grateful for them because you've learned through your journey what you want, what you need, and what kind of a partner you can be. And so
Right.
for her, she's like, I've never thought about it that way. And I said, it might take, it's kind of like kissing the frog, right?
Right.
But
Right.
that's what I liked about this part in the article, because don't be every person, every encounter, these are just parts of the journey that may be painful and may not be the right and final one, but you're going to learn so much from those disappointments and pain, that when you do have it and it is good, is you're going to appreciate it more, you're going to be grateful, and you've learned from those parts of your journey. And
And I was just thinking, as you're talking about like the dating and relationships, I was thinking also about, support groups.
yep.
So you've gone through some sort of pain and you're coming together with people who are going through the same thing. And so you understand them and they're helping you understand you and what you're feeling. So it's that um, having some gratitude for that. It's not wonderful to go through that pain, but it is something that's helping you help others and creating some more relationships and understanding.
And
So,
I think there's something to be said for what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but I think what doesn't kill you makes you smarter too.
right, totally,
Right?
yeah. So very true.
A lot of learnings, and not
Right.
everything is going to work out. Yeah.
So this next one is be grateful for your needs.
Mm.
And I thought this was good because I was thinking about 2020 and what has happened in 2020 and all the inventions or all the how resourceful people have been in 2020 because they've needed something. They've
Okay,
needed
that's a great
to,
point.
like so we have to be thankful that we needed to be able to connect with people. So we all started doing FaceTime and Zooming more, or we felt the need to, I don't know, we're working from home and have children, and we felt the need that we had to set up an office with some privacy because, there are some things that have happened because of our needs.
That's a great point. We're much more resourceful, and we're much more in tune with our needs. And I think because things got so easy, and between being on the hamster wheel, accessibility, you don't even realize what some of your core needs are because
Right.
you're going through the motions, and they're just right there.
Right. And like we didn't realize that we needed some quiet time, that it was okay to have quiet time. Like those needs for some people hadn't been met for a while. That pause button, they hadn't had an opportunity in those needs. So anyway, I thought that was good. The next one is be grateful for forgiveness.
I love that.
Yeah. And, forgiveness of people forgiving us. That's what I always think. I'm grateful that people forgive me for whatever, if I've ever done anything. And I'm always really conscious to make sure I'm giving that forgiveness too, because that's pretty important.
Love that.
Okay, this next one, be grateful for your failures. Thoughts on that?
I don't think you can succeed unless you failed. Or you can even appreciate, back to gratitude, your successes without knowing your failures. I'm very grateful for my failures, Um, yeah, I don't think you got to be able to acknowledge them, first of all, and understand them and not be ashamed, but be
Yeah.
able to glean from them. Everybody has them. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because it's kind of taboo, because they talk about in here is, wow,
Yeah.
it's be grateful for your failures. This is a good one, right? Failures. I've had my share of them, but people like to not, who puts on Facebook, look, I failed.
I
Yes,
know.
yes, that one. Woo-hoo! And I get back to this day, I still have people, and they do it from a place of love. It was actually in the Omaha World Herald front page. It was quoted that I was fired by X, who is the CEO of the company, and we absolutely got into a public squabble. Okay, but it was quoted in the front page of the paper because I told the reporter it came from me. And
Yeah.
so, because part of the squabble was I wanted to be very clear what happened. Okay. People hated that for me. Oh my God, that was on the front page. Everybody knows you're fired. I'm like, but I was like, but they were so upset to this day. It's like, oh, but they put that in the paper. And I'm thinking, but it was a failure, and it happened. But people are so afraid of the F word, failing and firing. And it's like, it's okay.
Right. And we're so used to competing with the images on social
Right,
media. Like you
right.
said, we're not posting all of our failures on Facebook
No,
or
Amy, I didn't put it on LinkedIn and say, look, I was promoted, I was fired, people. But the funny part is it was back to being grateful. I was at a point of being grateful. Not that I didn't know he was going to I didn't say put this in there, but it was what had happened. But I
right.
was to the point of, I had already seen it as a failure. I was already in the process of learning from it, and I was already moving on to new opportunities. So
Right.
that's how it felt to me. But it was so interesting how people were just so appalled in a very kind and nourishing way. But
Mhm.
it was a reminder on how people don't, or people are uncomfortable with failure. That's what I'd say. People
Yeah.
are uncomfortable with failure.
Yes. And knowing about other people's failure and their own failures because it expresses some vulnerability when everybody knows that you failed.
Garrett and I
Or
say this all the time. We failed in our first marriages. We don't say it's a 50-50 thing. It's, he did this to me. We both failed in our first marriages. And we will often say, though, sometimes it's like, oh, why didn't we meet when we were young? And we could have had our, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, he said this, back to the nuggets of Garrett knowledge. He said, I never would have appreciated you ever the way I appreciate you today. I needed to fail. And I needed to fail in my first marriage to appreciate you in my second marriage. And I would say the same thing.
it's
It
part of your journey.
was part of our journey, and we learned a lot from our failures to make us better spouses the second time around.
Yeah. So this last sentence about be grateful for your failures in this article, it says, be grateful for your ability to write the next chapter,
Love
but
it.
also for the experiences, even the failures that brought you to the blank page once more. I love that. I love that imagery of, all right, what's the blank page?
Right.
What's my next chapter? If
Right.
I know this didn't work out, what's next? So anyway,
Love it.
that's a good one. All right, the next one. So these again are 7 things that if you're not thankful for these, that you're going to have a very hard 2021. So start shifting your mind if you're not grateful for this. But the next one is be grateful for your people.
I loved it that they said your people.
Me too.
That's just my people. Like when we were talking about all of I was texting with several of my old neighbors. One was a group text. One had adopted my cat, and high school friends, you know,
Yeah.
extended family, immediate family, FaceTime with my brother and my niece. Amy, these are my people. You and I exchanged texts yesterday. Several of my other good friends. I love this. Be grateful for your people.
Yes. I completely agree because a lot of people will write, be grateful for the people in your life, which that's completely different than your people.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
They said you could get, yeah, relationships are great, but understanding your people and who really matter. And that's the key.
And it says in this piece also that animals can fit into this category
Oh,
too.
that's
So be
wonderful.
thankful
Mine is
for.
sleeping right by my side because he's going to stay right by mommy.
I don't have mine aren't with me today. I don't know where mine are today. They're usually right with me. Okay, the last one is be grateful for hope and faith.
Nice.
Right.
You got to have hope and faith. I mean,
Yes.
hope it's kind of like our dreams thing. Look at, I've got COVID foggy mind here. Remember our dreams thing, Amy? Our episode on hopes and dreams and how my mom told me, you got to let people have hopes and dreams. You got to stop dosing reality on them, you
Right.
know?
It says hope and faith go hand in hand. They're prerequisites to optimism. And optimistic people are the ones who achieve the greatest success and happiness in life. Okay,
Nice.
lovely. I know. So anyway, great article. Thanks for sharing that this morning. Gratitude. So I'll go through the 7 of them real quick, just for our listeners. It's
Okay.
grateful you're alive, grateful for pain and longing, grateful for your needs, grateful for forgiveness, grateful for your failures, grateful for your people, grateful for hope and faith. So that's good.
Love those.
Um, all right. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back with some questions. All right, question today. So this was really interesting. I read an article today because, we're good at doing our research and reading lots of articles. We don't want to come to this thinking that we know all the answers and all the questions. So this article today was, I read it in Psychology Today. It was about a year old. And it was talking about the opposite, like the adverse, um, the problems with having a completely grateful perspective on stuff. Okay. And one of the quotes was from the article was, critics of social justice movements have characterized activist demands for fundamental changes in the system as petulant expressions of ingratitude. Gratitude norms that discourage people from expressing dissatisfaction may function to inhibit citizens from voicing complaints about shortcomings and injustices.
Man, this is reminding me of kneeling for the flag.
Well, isn't that the truth? I mean, as
Right.
I was
Because
thinking
right
about,
away it's against veterans. And it's like, and my point is, and I'll use this as an example. In no way, shape, or means is their point to go against veterans or
right,
people who have supported the flag in that way. But the psychology is that people automatically say, you just need to be grateful,
right,
and they're discouraging them from expressing dissatisfaction. Wow, this is deep.
right. I know. I was reading this article and it
Is
was a
it
really,
possible to feel grateful while also speaking out against what's wrong? I think it absolutely is. Because you
I,
can't be, I get back to my mom when she'd call me a Pollyanna. Um, it's good to be an optimist, but life isn't perfect all the time. And there has to be a time when things are not right, that you're not simply trying to pretend that it's not something it's not. What do you think? That's a
I
pretty,
completely agree because but you have
Amy, I
to,
can't hear you.
oh, you can't? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yes. I wonder if it came unplugged. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Maybe it's something I did. I'm sorry.
I don't
Maybe they
know.
heard you all along. If everybody heard them all along, Sandy does have technology issues. So keep on going. Everybody can hear you a second time probably now. So
Um, I think, yes, I agree with you that yes, you can be an optimist, you can show gratitude, and you can also bring up social justice issues. I think the thing that happens though is that the people who have that perspective of, well, let's find the helpers. Let's find things to be grateful for. Those are really good for our psychological well-being and ongoing, but that may tend to soften us from the injustices that are happening. Does that make sense? Because I was
yep.
thinking about like the turkey line, the people in line for the turkeys this year because they couldn't afford groceries for Thanksgiving and the high need this year. And in my mind, I would look at that line and I would say, gosh, I am so thankful that there's people to provide that food for them, you know? So, and instead of going to, because when I was reading this article this morning, I was like, am I softening the effects of COVID on people? Like, in my by doing that, am I like kind of ignoring this injustice that's happening for people who are out of work, and all of these things due to this pandemic? And I am. And internally, that's creating my. It's not firing me up.
Right.
It's keeping me from being fired up. Of, oh my gosh,
Great
we
point.
should do something about this issue. And because I'm looking at, oh, I'm so glad they're getting turkeys. so so I think it's you can do both, but I think if you have an attitude of gratitude, um, just be aware that you may not be feeling the complete empathy for others. And I was even thinking about, I've had friends who have gone through cancer, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, my heart breaks for them. But I'm also like, gosh, I'm thankful they're getting such a good care and they're recovered. And they're like, I still look at all the good stuff. And I have one friend who went through it, and I adore her because whenever we talk about it, she just hashtags cancer sucks. And I'm like, yes, cancer sucks. And so I'm like, yeah, that's embracing it. That's acknowledging it. I think you have to be balanced. I
I
would
like
say that.
that. I like that.
It's hard though, because you want to protect your mental well-being.
Mhm.
Like for me, I need to keep my head safe. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And so when I am acknowledging that all these people need turkeys and what's happening, that they all need Thanksgiving food, then my heart starts to hurt. It
Mhm.
makes me sad. So, yeah,
But you got to be a realist too, right?
right. Right. Okay. So, okay. But we can still be grateful for what we can still have gratitude. All right. So, the final discussion question is, what's the real in these situations and what's the ideal?
The real is there's plenty to be look at here's goes the fog again. There's plenty to
COVID
be
brain.
great COVID brain. There's plenty to be grateful for. You just have to look for it and in your heart see what it is and express it. The real is that it's there.
It's there.
And sometimes it's hard to be grateful when you're not feeling good, when you're going through pain, going through a lot of things we talked about in that list, failure, um, relationship issues. It's tough, but the ideal is to find it because you're going to feel better and you're going to, it's just going to be a natural um, positive stimulant for yourself that only pays it forward with others too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think the real is we have to do what's best for us. And so sometimes, like me, I'm just, I'm thinking through it for myself. Gratitude is definitely a survival tactic. It's been a survival tactic that I've had since my kids were wee little ones, and I really had to dig out each day and figure out, okay, what am I grateful for? They used to always say, instead of complaining about the laundry, be grateful that you have all the people in your house that create the laundry. And I'm like, okay, that's a stretch, but
You'd be grateful you have all the socks. And
great.
another thing you made me think about too is uh, one thing that I can take really personally is when I'm not appreciated. Okay. So, it happens with our kids where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not feeling appreciated for this, or they're taking me for granted, and I can find myself wallowing a bit when I'm not feeling appreciated. And a good strategy against that is to, instead of thinking, because I can't change other people's actions, right? But
Right.
what I can do is change myself. And so when I'm not feeling appreciated, and I think I do this quite a bit, I turn it and start thinking about the people that I do that I appreciate, and I'm more. Uh, it really motivates me to share that with them because of how it made me feel.
Right. Yeah.
And I do find that I might be mad at one son for not feeling appreciated or how he responded. And um, 50% of the time, how I'll react is I will thank the others for things that they've done that was dissimilar type action. The other 50%, Amy, is it is a known thing with my kids that if I'm kind of mad at one, they all three, I find something negative. That's the other 50% of the
Oh
time.
yeah.
Not the ideal. And they'll just ask me, who did what? Because I mean,
I
I
know.
know something triggered this and
My,
somebody ticked you off. And so now we're all getting something.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, you nailed that one.
you're all
It can
getting
go
a
one
little
of two ways.
feedback.
It can go one of two ways.
Right. I'm the same way. I think it's a mom thing. We
Is that
can
a
go
mom
either
thing?
direction. Yeah. Um, all right, good. Okay, so wrap question today.
Wrap question.
Wrap question. So this is kind of a on trend question, but I want to make sure that people are asking each other this question. Are you okay? Is the question.
Love that question. We all need to be asking it more. So is that the question to me first? Am I okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Are you okay?
Yeah, you know, I'm okay. It's tough. I like to sugarcoat things, but it's I back to my gratitude list. I'm extremely grateful for my husband. I'm extremely grateful for my dog, my kids, my parents. But being quarantined, being sick, having an aging father-in-law live with me, it's trying.
Yeah.
I would say we are all okay, but it's not easy. But thank you for asking.
You know
Amy,
what?
are you okay?
I'm kind of in the same place. Yes, I have so much to be grateful for, and I'm good. You know, my sister and her family now have COVID, and she was texting with her this morning, and she said something about she's sad, and just sad that they caught it, sad that they're going through that, and that breaks my heart. And then also, I'm sorry, my dog's getting excited. And then my father-in-law, just being, you know, his situation where his health is declining. It's hard to watch family go through that. And it's just super sad. But I am okay. I have lots to be thankful for. I have a roof over my head. I have food in the refrigerator, and I have a job I love, and friends and family that are supportive. Bella, and a dog that barks. Come here.
I thought it was thunder at first. Look at
No,
mine's
she
looking all over the place.
she
Where's that
likes to
coming from?
say hi to our neighbor dog. When the neighbor
Oh,
dog comes out, she likes to stand at the door and
okay,
say
hello.
hi. Say hi. Yes. So anyway,
And mine,
so
look at mine. Mine's looking all over, going, where, wait, where? Where's that dog at?
where's
Where's
that
that?
dog barking from?
And I think I love this rap question. What's funny is Amy and I had both read the same article from Meghan Markle about how she was very stressed. And a reporter, she was breastfeeding, traveling baby, and very stressful. They were on a tour, and a reporter looked at her and said, "Are you okay?" And how that meant so much. She said, "That's the first time anybody's ever asked me that." And it resonated with me. And I saw Amy had posted this as the wrap question. I'm like, I love this because it goes back to when we talked about stop apologizing and how you say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Even sometimes it's because you feel bad for that person, what they're going through. A great question to ask is, are you okay? It's a great question.
Right. It doesn't make any assumptions about anything. It doesn't make any assumptions about how anybody's doing. Like, I hope you feel better, or, how are you feeling? It's just like, are you okay? Because it could be, you could be sick, or you could just be feeling lonely, or there could be anything going on. And I agree. I love that I posted it and you're like, oh my gosh, did you read that article? And I'm like, yes.
Yes.
And um I just love that this question is resonating with people, and people hopefully will be asking it of each other. Good
Awesome.
question. Okay, so good. Well, thank you.
Have a great weekend. My tree needs lights. I see your tree in the background. It's
I
very
was just
pretty.
gonna say we both have our trees up, which is so nice. And this is just a little one in my office, but
This is a little one in my office, and I went new with both trees since we moved. But Garrett's the only one who's not isolated anymore, so he gets to do nice jobs like picking up shampoo for me, which is very overwhelming for a man, by the way. And he's got to get a string of lights for me for this one, so soon enough.
oh, good. Well, very
Right,
good.
exciting thing. All right, Amy. Until
All right.
next week.
Till next week.
Bye.